We think
Oh,
about it.
okay. Well, I think we are going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. I am Monica Carey. I am the Pennsylvania Program Director for Solar United Neighbors. Thank you all for coming out tonight to our final Indiana County Solar 101. So this is for the Indiana County Solar and EV Charger Co-op. So I'm going to have Richard introduce himself, and then he's also going to talk a little bit later about the work that he's doing with the co-op. Go ahead, Richard.
Hello, everyone. I'm with Groundhog Solar. I'm the one that I own the company, and I'm the one who will be coming out to meet with you if you want to get a quote from Groundhog Solar for the solar co-op. I look forward to meeting with everybody. I think Cindy, of course, I've met with you many times at this point, and I see two new names that I don't recognize. So hopefully, if y'all decide to join up, I'll be meeting with you guys and see what we can do to help you go solar.
Thanks, Richard. And like I said, Richard's going to talk a little bit more later about his work with the co-op. He's also going to be manning the chat. So if you have questions along the way, make sure you pop them into the chat. He'll answer some. I'll answer some kind of in the middle of the presentation. So do not be shy. And then since we're a smaller group, when time comes to do the Q&A portion, if you want to raise your hand, I can unmute you and you can ask your question that way. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And there we go. Okay, so like I said, this is the final Solar 101 for the Indiana County Solar and EV Charger Co-op. So please, I think I saw all of you did, just make sure you join the audio so that you can hear, submit any questions in the chat. And then just so you know, the webinar is being recorded. We're going to share this link with you after the presentation so that you can go back and review the information. So I'd like to take a moment just to thank our partners. They are a really critical component to a successful solar co-op. So we are fortunate enough to be partnering again with the Indiana County Sustainable Economic Development Task Force. And this is actually our first time partnering with the Indiana County Farm Bureau. And we're also partnering this round with the Indiana County Conservation District. So partners are critical to the success of a co-op. Cindy is actually a member of a partner organization, and it's really the work that they do to bring in folks into the co-op that helps make us successful. So if you're here, you may have heard about us through one of these organizations. So we are Solar United Neighbors. We are a national nonprofit organization. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We are vendor neutral, which means that we don't select an installer. We're not installers, but we really focus around education and advocacy on solar. We help organize folks around solar policies, and we focus on rooftop solar. So we got started in Washington, D.C. in 2007, and since then we've really grown. We now have members in all 50 states. We have 11 state programs, and then programs also in Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. We've run over 366 solar co-ops, and we've helped over 7,700 homes go solar. And we are incredibly proud of these numbers. Our theory is that we help people go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. And these are people that we're helping go solar either for the first time, or maybe they already have a solar system and we give them support as they come across issues or just have questions. We help people join together. We give them resources and tools to help them understand their solar, but we also bring them together in sessions like this one tonight or during solar tours and happy hours. And then we help them fight for their energy rights. So there are a lot of solar policies that directly impact both solar homeowners, but even those who are not solar homeowners. So we help people understand those policies and help them fight to protect the solar that they've been able to install in their home. And our Pennsylvania program has been in operation since 2018. These are just some of our numbers, and we're very proud of these, and it's really just the beginning. We're very excited to see, as we grow and expand across the state, how many people we're able to bring solar education to. And I kind of alluded to it earlier, but this is our third time running a solar co-op in Indiana County. We have already helped to educate 124 residents and businesses about rooftop solar with those previous 2 solar co-ops. So not even counting the amazing work we've done this round. We helped 25 people go solar previously, and there's now this incredible network of former co-op members in Indiana County. So in today's presentation, we're going to go through 3 sections. We're going to start by talking about how solar co-ops work. Secondly, will be the solar technology itself. And then finally is going to be the financials around solar. And at the end of each section, I'm going to stop and take questions. So feel free to pop them into the chat or wait until the end, either way. So a solar co-op at its core is when we bring a group of geographically constricted homeowners, small business owners, and nonprofit organizations to go solar all at the same time through one installer. So this model helps give you a good value on installation. And then we at Sun provide you consumer advocacy. We provide technical support. We answer all of those questions that you might have about your contract, about warranties, the equipment. We really help you through the process. And after you get solar, we're still there for you. And then, like I said, Indiana County has this incredible group of solar supporters. So now you're part of that, and we can help connect you with all of the people in this network of solar enthusiasts. And you become part of that growing movement that's really happening in Pennsylvania, but nationwide. So this is our outline of the co-op process. It is pretty variable depending on the co-op, but so Indiana County Co-op launched back in, now I'm going to forget, I think it was September, and we're going to be closing on March 1st. So that is an important date to keep in mind. So when you first join or first get interested, you come to an event like this where you begin to learn about the solar co-op. And then if you're interested, you can sign up online to become a member. It is completely free, and there is no obligation to go solar. There's no obligation to go solar with the co-op's installer. It's really just an opportunity to learn as much as you can about solar and to get a free customized proposal. So then we do ask that, the partners help us to promote the co-op, but we also ask that co-op members spread the word and tell their neighbors, friends, coworkers, family members about the co-op. The more people who join, the more people there are in your neighborhood who are going solar. And that's really a snowball effect. So around month 3, although this again is highly variable, we select an installer. So like I said before, Solar United Neighbors is completely installer neutral. So what we do is we issue a request for proposals. We do this to any installers that service the area, and we take their competitive bids and compile them into one spreadsheet and give those bids to the selection committee, who is made up of co-op members. The selection committee gets together one night, they go through the bids, kind of comb through, and choose a single installer that they believe will best fulfill the needs of all of the co-op members. So once the installer is selected, then they will begin to reach out to co-op members, begin scheduling site visits, conversations, just to have that conversation about your energy needs, your annual energy usage. They'll look at an electricity bill and just understand, the size of the system you're thinking about, your budget, all of those kinds of things. So like I said, that sign up deadline for this co-op is March 1st. And after that point, you are not able to join the co-op anymore, which means you're not able to access that competitive co-op price for solar. Now, up to step 6, you can walk away at any time. There's no penalty, no fee, nothing like that. But if you do decide to move forward with your system, at this point, you would sign an individual contract with your installer to own your own system on your own home. It's not a leased system, and you're not co-owning with others. This is your solar system. Then that begins the typical process for installation. And at the end, when most people are installed and generating power, then we get together and we talk about all of the incredible work that we've done in Indiana County, all of the people who have joined the co-op. We show photos and everybody talks about their new technology. So I just want to drill down a little bit on that selection process. So again, the selection committee, the ones choosing the installer, they're all co-op members. That's really critical to the success of a co-op. And then when the first few people join the co-op, so it's about the first 30 or so, when they join, they choose the things that are most important to them when choosing an installer. So things like price, equipment quality, the experience of the installer, equity, things like that. And then that list of priorities is compiled and given to the selection committee along with all of the bids. So then they will compare the bids and compare it to that list of priorities of the co-op members. And that is how they choose the installer. So as you heard before, Groundhog Solar was selected for the Indiana County Solar Co-op, and they were chosen because they have excellent equipment selection. They have specifically great experience in Indiana County and great pricing. So if you are interested and you join the co-op, then you can get your own free customized proposal at the competitive co-op pricing. And I have included Richard's contact information here, but Richard, if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about your experience in Indiana County and maybe what folks can expect coming up from you if they join the co-op.
Sure. I guess one of the most important things is who your utility company is in Indiana. There are lots of people right now going solar that have, really long delay times with utility companies trying to get through the utility process of getting connected. And in Indiana, you probably either have Penelec or you have REA. And with Penelec, we have lots of experience working with Penelec, and Penelec is great because in a way they are the fastest utility to get these solar projects through their pipeline and get them approved way faster than any other utility out there right now. So that's really awesome. We have lots of experience with Penelec. We have lots of experience in Indiana. One thing you mentioned early on, Monica mentioned that the Solar United Neighbors has experience, we're doing rooftop solar, but the co-op is rooftop and ground mounts. And we find that a lot of people, especially in the rural areas in Indiana, are choosing ground mounts instead of rooftop systems. So realize that that is an option. If you don't want this on your roof, you can have it on your ground as well. And then for those who are REA members, REA does throw up some roadblocks with solar. We still have a pretty good amount of experience working with REA, and we can inform you on what some of their stumbling blocks, I guess, are, and decide whether that's going to be an issue for you or not, and make sure that solar is for you. one thing that I really stress with all the customers I meet is that we want you to be happy with the solar that you get. And we're going to make sure that with the tax credits and the incentives out there, that it's a fit for you. And we are not afraid to tell you if it doesn't look like you're going to be able to get the tax credit, or with some customers, between maybe not getting the tax credits and then some of the things that REA wants you to do, it may not be a good deal, and a very smart financial move to go solar, and we'll let you know. And so we're not afraid to tell you that, because we really want you to be happy with the choice that you make.
I think that's really important to mention, Richard. I really appreciate hearing that. At the end of the day, we at Sun also prioritize that you are happy with your system. There are enough people out there giving solar a bad name. We are not trying to add to that.
Right. Yeah, that's a real issue in Pennsylvania right now.
It really is. So if folks on this call decide to join the co-op, what can they expect to hear from you in the next month or so?
Yeah, I have certainly, if you're signing up, we'll see that you're a new sign up, and I'll be trying to contact you. I've certainly tried to contact all of the people who are already signed up. So just realize that when you may not recognize the phone number, listen to the voicemail. That's fine if you let it go to voicemail first. I can understand that with the number of people, making, solicitation calls. But give me a call back or send me an email. And if you sign up and you don't even want to wait for that, feel free to send me an email or give me a call. In the mornings, it's actually kind of hard to get in touch with me. In the mid mornings, early morning is good, but in the mid mornings, it's hard to reach me. But then in the afternoons, it's usually pretty easy. And we will set up a time to meet. I'm in Indiana. I think I've been in Indiana perhaps every day the last week for the last week. So I am in Indiana all the time. And so if you want to call and set up an appointment for, say, tomorrow, well, let's see, I probably could make tomorrow work. Yeah, I could make tomorrow work. And then guess what? I'm in Indiana again on Friday already. So I'm there all the time. And we're in Altoona, by the way. So I don't think we mentioned that. So I'm only an hour away. And I'm driving over the mountain toward Indiana or northern Cambria or southern Clearfield all the time. So I'd be happy to meet with you whenever you're ready.
That sounds perfect. So I'm going to stop here and take any questions. I see. Oh, why, thank you, Cindy. They are impressive numbers. We are very proud of them. If there are any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. I am going to put the page for the co-op so that you can sign up if you're interested. And I will add this at the end as well. Oh. Okay. Okay, well, not seeing any questions, I'm going to go ahead and move on with the presentation. So our next section is on solar technology. Oh,
I think you have the information for that one.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, so when we're talking about solar, we're using solar as a shorthand for solar photovoltaic, solar PV. You'll sometimes hear it referred to as, but it is the technology that converts solar energy, sunlight, into electricity. And so I'm going in the next few slides to kind of go through each of these components so that you understand everything that makes up your solar system. So, at the very heart of it is your solar panel or solar module. So you can see it kind of layered off to the left. So everything that is part of the solar module is really there to protect the solar cells. So those are those little blue squares that you see in the cartoon. Those are still predominantly silicon technology. And everything there, the polymer encapsulant, the tempered glass, the aluminum frame, it's all there to protect the solar cells so that they can exist outside with go weather, you know, and last for 25 years. That is the lifetime of these modules, and many of them are lasting even longer. And so when you string together a group of panels or modules, you have what's called a solar array. Now, your system, your array, is going to be measured by size. So we call that a kilowatt. That's 1,000 watts, and it's a measure of power. So just for your ability to gauge, in Pennsylvania, the average system size on a home is typically between 4 and 15 kilowatts. And that size is really going to be based on you as an individual and your home. So your budget, your annual energy usage, if you're planning on, you know, electrifying an appliance or adding an EV charger, and whether or not you want to cover 100% of your annual usage, or maybe you're okay with only covering 60%. So, and then I should mention too, in Pennsylvania, a residential size can go up to 50 kilowatts, but that's really huge, and we rarely ever see anything that big. Now, when you take power, so a kilowatt, and extend it over time, that's a kilowatt hour, and that is energy. So that is a unit that you're more likely to recognize. You've probably seen it on your electric bill, but that is the unit of energy that you're going to be producing over time. So your solar panels need to be attached to your roof. So the roof racking is a critical component. This is a pitched asphalt shingle roof, fairly common, fairly standard. So in this case, the installer is going to drill a hole through the roof down to your rafter, and then that way it's a really secure connection. And then they're going to kind of seal around that penetration point with a polymer encapsulant or a polymer sealant and that metal shearing. And that's really so that all of the water that comes from rain and snow, it shears right away from your penetration point so that you don't have leaking into the roof. And then if you have a metal or a standing seam metal roof, it's essentially going to be a clamped system. They'll clamp the panels right to those seams so that there is no penetration. And then if you have a flat roof, it'll be a weighted system or ballast system. So there are different options depending on the roof that you have and the roof type. So when thinking about your roof, there are a few different criteria that go into whether or not your roof is suitable to get solar. So first, you know, we're in the Northern Hemisphere. Ideally, it would be, your roof would be directed due south. You can absolutely get away with due east to due south to due west. North is not recommended, but even that is kind of changing for reasons I'm not going to get into, but we still do recommend a south facing roof. So secondly, you know, it is a solar system, so you want not a ton of shade, and that would come from, you know, trees, but also nearby buildings or obstructions. So solar systems can handle a little bit of shading, but when we look at when you join the co-op, we look at your roof remotely, and we'll do a shade analysis and let you know if it's going to be a good fit for solar. But the installer will do a much more rigorous shade analysis, so you'll really understand how suited for solar your roof is. So thirdly, you do want to have enough space to mount your panels. The industry standard is 250 square feet, and that is kind of the minimum that we would recommend. Uh, Anything smaller than that, it's going to be a very small system. So then it's going to be more expensive. So you really do want a larger surface, and you want it to be all contiguous. And finally, you want a new undamaged roof, or as new and undamaged as you can get. And this is really because it is cost prohibitive to put up the solar, and then when you need to replace the roof, you have to pull it down, repair or replace your roof, and then put your solar back up. So we do recommend that if you have an asphalt shingle roof, that it be no more than about 10 years old. You might be able to get away with 15, but ideally, you would put up a new roof and new solar panels so that the two can stay up their entire lives without you having to take them down. So if your roof's not suitable for solar, or if it's just something aesthetically that you don't love and you have the space for a ground mount, that is, like Richard was saying, absolutely doable with a co-op. So for ground mounts, there is some give and take, some pros and cons, I guess I should say, compared to rooftop solar. So first, with rooftop solar, you're putting the panel flush to the roof. So you're really limited by its pitch and orientation. But that's not true with a ground mount. You can orient your panels so that they are perfectly optimized to their maximum efficiency. They're going to collect as much sun as they possibly can. The second thing is, because on the roof, your panel is flush to the roof, it's not getting a ton of circulation. It's going to be running at warmer temperatures. And we know about solar systems that they're less efficient when they're warmer. So when they're on the ground and they've got all of that air circulating around them, they actually run more efficiently. The downside to ground mounts is that generally they do tend to be more expensive. That's because of the trenching that has to bury the power lines to carry power from the system back to your home, pouring concrete just to stabilize the scaffolding. So generally that is true, and I will let Richard correct that when we get to the Q&A portion so that everybody understands. But that is how the ground mounted systems work. Now, after your system collects the sun, or after your solar panels collect the sun, they generate what is called DC, or direct current, but your home actually runs on alternating current, AC. So you need to have something that switches the DC to AC so that you can use that power that you generate in your home. And the component that does that switching is the inverter. There are a few different types of inverters. You can see them here. They all do essentially the same three functions, which is, that switching from DC to AC. Secondly, they do a power optimization so that as the amount of shade covering the panel during the day, as that changes, the inverter or the optimizer figures out what the optimum power calculation is so that you're getting the most power out of the panel. And then the third function is that they connect to the internet, and that allows you to monitor remotely the power production from your panels, which is great because it helps you see, oh, this panel is shaded right now, or this panel's kind of failing, or I just have questions about it. So it's really great for seeing your power production in real time. And then in terms of your electrical panel, it is a simple connection to the panel from solar. So the solar power is being generated on the panels. It gets inverted at the inverter, and then it feeds directly into that general energy mix in your electrical panel. So if you have a small, old panel, there's a chance that you may need to upgrade. But anything that you need like that pricing is already included in the co-op bid. So you'll already know that kind of going in. And that's something that Richard or any installer is going to ask about, look at, screen for ahead of time. So at least with the co-op, it's not going to be a surprise cost. You will know upfront what you're looking at. So at this point, it's really helpful to kind of put it all together and then introduce a concept called net metering. So we start off, you have your panels, they're completely drenched in sunshine, just soaking it up. They're generating direct current that feeds into the inverter, which switches it to alternating current. That goes into the electricity panel in your home and then powers anything in your house that is trying to use energy. So light bulbs, TVs, anything. Anything that's not used is then going to be sent to this new bidirectional meter that you have installed. So it's going to measure energy in and energy out. And it's important to note here that these are systems that are still connected to the grid. That is still what we see to be the most common and cost-effective way of going solar. So this is why now is a good time to introduce net metering. So this is a concept that's really about accounting for your energy production. So every kilowatt hour that you generate that you don't use in your home that gets sent out to the grid, the utility is actually going to pay you for it. They'll pay you at full retail rate for every kilowatt hour that you send to the grid. And they do that on a month-to-month basis. So Pennsylvania actually has some of the best net metering in the entire country. We love it. It's a little bit shocking, and so we're very protective of it. So at the same time, that you're getting paid for those kilowatt hours that you're generating, you're also putting them into a bank. So this is the accounting part of it. So in the summer, you're over generating by a lot. All of that power that you're not using goes into a bank so that in the winter, when you're not generating as much, it's just darker days generally, you're going to be spending down that bank. So you will be pulling from, this bank that you've spent into the rest of the summer so that you're not pulling from the grid as they see it, which means that you're going to have that part of your bill completely offset. And that's actually how you see net metering is on your bill. So this is a Penelec customer who went solar, and this is a bill for February to March. So, not the sunniest of months, but at the time, they had 725 kilowatt hours that came from the grid to their home. That month, they themselves produced and sent to the grid 718 kilowatt hours. So that was only 7 kilowatt hours that they didn't produce themselves. So if you go down here, they started off with a bank of 1,135 kilowatt hours at the beginning of February. So after all of their usage, they had only used 7 kilowatt hours from that bank. I really like this example too, because it kind of shows you the scale. You can see that this person really drastically over-generated in the summer and then did not have to spend down quite so much come winter and spring. So their bill that started at about $98 was completely taken down to almost nothing. What was left at the end was that fixed customer charge, which for them was just over $10. So this is what we mean when we say that solar pays for itself. So one thing that I should mention though is that the utility only monitors the amount of energy that you give to them. So they're not monitoring how much you're generating, how much your home is using. Those are numbers that are really important for you to understand if you want to make sure that your utility is net metering you properly. If you want to make sure to get all of that money that you are owed for your energy production. So something that we recommend is investing in a consumption monitor. So this helps you keep track of just how much your solar panels are generating, as well as how much energy your home is actually using. That way you can really get a complete picture of everything that's happening electricity-wise in your home. And so the installation of the monitors can happen at the same time as the installation of solar, and it runs somewhere between $200 and $600. And then this is just an example of the monitoring software. So for this person, you can see that this was how, in the blue, how their solar panels generated throughout the day. So basically started at 7 a.m., finishes around 7:30, but they themselves didn't actually use energy until about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then, so they would have been pulling from their solar generation during these hours, but then after the sun went down, that's when they would have started pulling from the grid. So this helps give them a good idea of how much energy they're actually taking from the grid versus how much they're generating. And so now it's important to talk a little bit about battery storage. So as a co-op member, you do get pricing for a solar installation, for battery backup, and for a level 2 electric vehicle charger. So a lot of people think when they get solar installed that if the power goes out around them, but it's still sunny out, that they're going to be fine. They'll still have power, they have solar. But that is a very common misconception because if you're still grid tied, if your power goes out in the homes around you, you too will lose power. This is because the utility doesn't want your system backfeeding electricity onto the grid if they have line workers out to try to make repairs. So just as a safety precaution, they're trying to make sure that all of the homes are islanded, essentially, so that everybody is safe. So if you want to maintain power while there's an outage, if you have frequent outages, if you have things that just need backup, so critical loads, if you have medical equipment that needs to be powered, well pumps, anything like that, then battery backup might be the right option for you. And so I would, you're going to get pricing for that, as well as the specific systems that Groundhog Solar is able to install. It's definitely worth a conversation. If you're thinking about getting battery, but maybe right now is not the right time, I would still mention it to your installer, because they can design your system so that it's really simple to just later on install a battery system, as opposed to if you have to do it later, you're going to have to hire an electrician to kind of rewire things. So it might be cheaper and easier long term if you mention it up front. And we do have a battery storage guide for homeowners. It's at solarunitedneighbors.org/storage. And then, like I said, if you are interested in getting a level 2 EV charger, you can get pricing for that and an installation with the co-op. And we do see that a lot of people really prefer to pair their solar with the EV charger. It helps them know exactly how much they're going to be paying for fuel, which is something that has been kind of at the forefront of everybody's minds this past year, that uncertainty. And then I'm going to go through a few of our frequently asked questions here, and then we'll stop and take any other questions that you might have, because I know this has been a lot of information and I can talk kind of fast. So the first question we often get is about warranties. What kind of warranties should I expect? So there are 3 different types of warranties. The first is a labor workmanship warranty. So this is going to come from the installer and will cover their workmanship. And that can really vary. We've seen anything between 1 and 25 years. Secondly is a product warranty. So this is going to come straight from the manufacturer, and it will cover anything like the physical components. So the panels, the inverters, they'll all have their own warranty with them. And then finally, there's something called a power production warranty. So this is going to be for the panel specifically. It also comes from the manufacturer, and it essentially says you can expect these panels to perform in such a way over such a period of time. So it's a really good way to compare panels to each other. So for instance, you might see something that says, this panel will perform at 80% of its original efficiency at year 20. Or it will be, the other one you'll see is, it will lose no more than 1% efficiency every year. So something like that. And like I said, it's a good way to compare panels to each other, especially if they don't have many other things that are different between them. So secondly, will my homeowner's insurance premium go up? You know, the industry standard is that it really won't change, or it'll be a very minimal change. But we do recommend that you let your homeowner's insurance know ahead of time and find out if it's going to make it increase, and then shop around if it does. Anymore, you know, it's pretty standard part of home improvement, and we recommend that, you know, you find something that is kind of, you know, within, I would say, about 5% difference of what you're already paying. In terms of maintenance, you know, that's really one of the benefits to solar, is that there's very little maintenance. There are really no moving parts. We do recommend that you have somebody come out and look at your panels after the first 5 years, and then every 5 years after that. And you know, you can take a hose to them on the roof if they get dirty, but even that, you know, especially on the pitched roofs, we get enough rain and snow that that's really going to clean them off. But if you're worried about it, definitely talk to your installer. They can give you some recommendations. Solar systems are spec'd to last 25 years. It isn't that after 25 years, they just stop working entirely. It's just that that's when they are, that's the end of their, you know, their warranted lifetime. And then they've decreased in efficiency by that point. So this question about HOAs, in Pennsylvania, there is no solar access law. So that is a law that allows members of HOAs to go solar regardless of what their HOA's restrictions are. Basically keeps HOAs from placing those restrictions in the first place. So that is something that we're working on with Solar United Neighbors, particularly here in Pennsylvania. If that is something that you're interested in working on, let me know. But I know that HOAs are not super common in Indiana County. And then the final question is, what if I'm in an historic district? So this is kind of similar to the HOA. So if you're in an historic district, you may need to get a special permit. You may need to submit an application. They may tell you you can put solar on one side of your house or the other. They might, you know, reject it entirely, but that's something that your installer can kind of help you go through the process. They'll be able to answer any questions that the district office has. And so this is our solar access campaign, but I am going to stop here and take any questions. Richard, do you want to talk about ground mounted systems and Groundhog Solar's special
Sure.
bid?
And
Okay.
yep. And I was thinking, I'm going to, if I share a screen, will you still be able to switch back and share your screen?
Yeah, I'll stop sharing
Okay,
and then you can take over.
there we go. Okay, I'm just going to share some photos, some pictures. So here's a classic picture of a ground mount system that we install. The pricing, it is historical that it's hysterical, in fact, that historically it's been more expensive to do ground mounts than roof mounts. But that has really changed because on roof mounts, we really have to do microinverters now. And on ground mounts, it makes a lot of sense to use string inverters. So we're able with the co-op to offer ground mounts at actually a cheaper price than roof mount systems if you were doing all black panels on the rooftop. And it's not that it's cheaper, because they're not all things being considered. We're using a less expensive module, but the modules are actually coming from the same manufacturer and they carry the same warranty. It's just that typically these modules that I'm showing right here that have this silver frame on them are typically a little less expensive than the all black modules. But if you're putting this on a bunch of steel, erector set type stuff, it doesn't make sense to use all black modules when you're going to have all this galvanized steel around anyway. And so this is what the all black module would look like on a ground mount. This is a typical ground mount. This one's actually at the very north end of Indiana County. And it's got 2 string inverters there. And what it looks like on the house is this is the equipment that we would need to install on the house. You mentioned something about electrical panel upgrades, and we are usually able to install solar without even touching your electrical panel. We, in this particular case, the electrical panel was on the other side of the wall from this, and we simply took the wires that went from the meter in through the wall to that panel board, and we connected onto those wires before they got to the panel board. And so all of our work is outside, and we do that whether it's a ground mount or whether it's a rooftop. If it's a rooftop system, let's see, yep, here's a typical picture that I like to show. This is what the equipment is that we would typically install outside the house. And then you'll see these are all black panels on top of that roof. And the all black panels are definitely more expensive than those silver frame panels. They're more expensive because the manufacturing process, but don't think that expensive just means that they're better. They're made from the same manufacturer, Q-Cell. Q-Cell is a great company. And the warranty, we actually give an extended warranty that we purchase for all of our customers. And so in addition to the manufacturer's warranties that you get with Groundhog Solar, you also get a 30-year labor and materials warranty that covers, everything on the system, including the roof penetrations of your roof. And it's 30 years, it's transferable to someone else. And it doesn't even have to be Groundhog Solar who honors the warranty. I mean, we would want to be who you would call if something goes wrong. But if for whatever reason we're not here, you can always choose, or if you don't want to, you can always choose your own repair person to come and do it, and then they can get reimbursed from Solar Insure. And Solar Insure pays a really good labor rate. It's over $100 an hour for labor, so that's real cost of labor. And they also pay driving time to get to the job site and all that kind of stuff. So it's a real cost reimbursement for Solar Insure, which is really great. You mentioned the CTs being included, being able to monitor how much energy you're using, and we do install the exact same system that you were looking at for rooftop systems. On ground mounts, we don't install that. There isn't something really great for ground mounts that we found. But for rooftop systems, we install the same CT stuff that you showed on your slide. And that is included in our price, provided that it's possible. And I say that because there are some houses where that is simply not possible, or sometimes it's possible, but you can't see it live. You can only see it, like 20 minutes delayed or something like that. So there are some strange nuances with that CT monitoring that sometimes, we have to deal with. But most of the time, it's easy to install and it's live. So you can click a button and see how much energy you're using right at that moment. And then you can turn on the microwave and see it go up. So that's really cool. And then the last thing I think that's worthwhile to mention from what you said is EVs. I'm a big proponent of having EVs. I have three electric cars in our household. Both of our kids drive electric cars. My wife drives an electric car. I do not because I drive many days I drive 500 miles in one day. So that's really hard for an electric car. But electric cars are really great. They are very inexpensive to operate. They cost a little bit more to buy. And even if you're not thinking about an electric car right now, and when you go solar, we would highly encourage you to at least put in a plug in your garage that could be used to charge an electric car if you got one. We will actually recommend that. A lot of people want us to put in an EV charger when we're putting in solar, and yet they haven't decided on a car yet. That's actually a bad idea because different cars take different chargers. And so you want to wait to get a charger until you know what car you're going to get. But the plug you can install. The plug is the expensive part that requires, an electrician to come and do that. And frankly, it would never be less expensive for that to be installed than for us to do it while we're there doing major electrical work on your house. And so for us to install that plug while we're there doing all the other stuff for solar is really the best option for almost everybody. And that's very common for us to do. So I think I'll stop the share screen there and send it back to you. Mute. Okay.
Yeah, I lost all of my controls. No, I'm glad that you said that about the EVs. I kind of skimmed that section, and so it's definitely something that more and more people are asking about. So thank you. All right, so let's get back to the presentation. Okay, and so we're just going to kind of fly through this last little bit on the financials of going solar. So the cost of solar has really dramatically decreased since its inception. Even just in the past, decade, costs have dropped by about 73%. So it is really becoming more and more accessible to more and more people. It's not really seen as, only that one fancy house in the neighborhood gets to go solar anymore. It's really available to many more people, and it's an excellent return on your investment. Now, the solar co-op helps you to save money in going through the process on solar, and the reason for that is really in how the cost of solar breaks down. So you have these three kind of pieces to solar. The first is these system components. And so you can see over the last decade that those have dropped. And the system components are all of those physical pieces of a system. So they're the panels, the wiring, the inverters, like anything physical that goes into the system. The labor costs have also gone down in the last decade or so. And then the last little piece is soft costs. And I don't know if you can tell, but since 2013 or so, those have only increased, and soft costs make up more than 50% of the cost of solar. And that's everything else. That's not the physical components or the labor. So that's your permitting fees, it's marketing, customer acquisition. So all of those things, well, when you join a co-op, we bring this large group of very invested, educated homeowners and small business owners together and bring them straight to the installer. So they get to save money on the customer acquisition piece and pass that along as savings to you. Now, this is an example pricing chart. So just an example, but this is calculated for an average solar system size for the average Pennsylvania co-op member. So our average price in Pennsylvania is about $257 per watt. And I'm going to focus on this right-hand column because this is the average system size for a co-op member in Pennsylvania. It's a 10 kilowatt system. So at that size, you're looking at about a $25,700 kind of ticket price for your system. Now, if you're able to take advantage of the tax credit, the federal tax credit, it is 30%. So that is $7,700 that you get to take off of the price of solar. So your net cost there is just about $18,000. Now, when I was showing you the slide with the bill, we saw how much money you can save in electricity each year. And so that, or each month, and that rolls over every month. So you get to your first year, your electricity savings are going to be almost $1,900. And then that just accumulates over the lifetime of the panels. So by year 25, you have saved more than twice, almost 3 times the amount of money that you've spent on the system itself. At the same time, there is a second form of income that you can get for your solar system that's called the Solar Renewable Energy Credit. So this is it is a credit that is created every time your system generates 1 megawatt hour of energy, which is 1,000 kilowatt hours, and it is bought and sold on a market. It comes out of a policy choice in Pennsylvania called the Alternative Energy Portfolio Standards. It's really a way of crediting utilities for generating electricity from renewables. They have to get a certain portion of it from solar specifically. So this is their way to pay for that. And since it's bought and sold on a market, and since the requirement for solar in Pennsylvania is so low, it's only 0.5% of electricity in Pennsylvania needs to come from solar. The market price for it is pretty low as well. This is a little bit outdated. It says $30 per SREC. It's closer to $40 per SREC right now. But so that is a little extra income that you can get from your solar system. And like I said, the federal investment tax credit is 30%. That was actually just extended and increased last year during the Inflation Reduction Act. So it's increased to 30% for the next 10 years, which is really incredible. And then it'll step down to 26% and then to 22%. And so this is a tax credit. It means when so if you were to have your system completely installed this year, when you file your taxes next year, you are able to take away 30% of the total cost of installation. And it is non-refundable. That is something that we were working to try to pass, but you do need to have enough tax liability in order to be able to claim it. So if you have questions about the tax credit and whether you are able to claim it or how much you'll get for it, we highly recommend that you talk to a tax professional, because I am not. Now, for payment options, there are 3. So the first is a cash option. It is the highest upfront cost, but you really just, after that, it's all savings. And then there is a REAP program. So this comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So it's the Rural Energy for America program. And this is applicable to farmers and small business owners in rural areas like Indiana County. So if this applies to you, if you're interested in this, let us know. We actually just came out with a new REAP guide to help people who are applying for it. And then finally, there are also loan options, and there are national and local loan options. So you can find out more about that at solarunitedneighbors.org/financing. But just quickly, the most common option we see is people get the home equity line of credit, but there are other loans that you could get. You could also refinance and include solar in that. And then I know Groundhog Solar offers financing, many installers offer financing, and co-op members also have access to loans through the Clean Energy Credit Union or Community First Credit Union. When you reach out to them, you just let them know that you're a Sun co-op member, and then you can get access to different loan options with low rates. But with any loan, you really just want to kind of shop around, compare terms, really understand the fees you're going to be paying and when. And then finally, with the EV chargers, there are many incentives to buy EVs, should say EV at the bottom, but to buy the EVs and the chargers, there are federal, state, and local incentives, and we have more information about that on the co-op website. So that is listed right over here, but it's also in the chat. And for folks who are not able to go solar, I like to talk about this at the end. There are a lot of people who aren't able to go solar because, they can't make the financial investment, or something as fundamental as they are renters or their roof isn't positioned correctly. For them, they're not able to participate in solar or take advantage of it. So they can't see those savings and they can't invest in green energy. But there is a program called Community Solar that is not legal yet in Pennsylvania, and we're fighting to make it legal. But essentially, it's an off-grid solar installation that people subscribe to, and then they see those financial and environmental benefits of solar. We believe that this is the way to make solar energy accessible to everyone. So if this is something that you also believe, you can use that QR code that's on the top left and let your legislator know that they should legalize community solar. You can also reach out to us and let us know that you are interested in joining our campaign. So I am going to stop here and actually share a poll. So it is really important for the success of the co-op that we have lots and lots of co-op members, really letting all of your neighbors, co-workers, family members know about the co-op and about solar. So this is a poll just to find out if you are interested in spreading the word about the co-op. So there are lots of different options, something as simple as sending an email to a friend, or sharing this webinar with your coworker, putting out a yard sign, or handing out a flyer, anything like that. It really helps. It helps us to reach as many people as possible. So if any of those sound like something that you'd be willing to do, you can let us know, and our community impact specialist, Morgan, will reach out to you. And I'm just going to leave it up for another second or so, but behind that, you can also see that we have the co-op webpage back on the screen. And again, I just want to mention that the join deadline is March 1st. So that is the last chance to join the co-op and get that co-op pricing. Okay, well, thank you everybody who answered the poll. I'm going to move on, and I'm actually going to end here and take any questions that anybody might have. I also wanted to offer, Cindy, you are a former co-op member. If you'd like to talk about your experience with the co-op, or if you want to plug anything that the conservation district is doing, just raise your hands and I can unmute you. But I'm also not going to make you. I don't want to put you on the spot. But let me know if you would like to speak a little bit about your experience. And Richard, I see, oh yeah, SREX, we're up to 46. Okay. So yeah, it's a market, can never quite tell what they're going to do. Was there
Right.
anything else, Richard, that you wanted to add? Anything I forgot?
No, and those SREC prices are highly volatile. They're going up. Really, I don't even understand why they're going up as much as they are right now, but they are, and so who knows what they're going to do in the future. That's all I can really say. The payback, I think the biggest thing is people want to know about the payback, and the numbers that you gave in that example are pretty accurate. I would say that if you're a Penelec customer, what you're paying for electricity is actually more than what was in that example, because Penelec is actually the most expensive utility in the state. So, I mean, they help solar more than every other utility, but they also charge more for their regular electricity. So most customers are seeing something in the neighborhood of a 7-year payback for going solar. So that's a really great option. And yeah, we do offer financing, but frankly, I have advised all the customers now, after the rates have gone up so much in the fall, that they're better off just going to a local bank and seeing what kind of lending you can get from a local bank, because the lending that we're now able to offer is at I think ridiculously high interest rates, and there's just I don't think it's very financially wise for people to take that option at this point.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I appreciate your frankness there. I think that's
It's
helpful to hear.
I'm really trying to, from the very beginning when I first was installing solar for people, the solar had to like meet my test that it was, I would have thought it was a good buy for me to install it on someone's house. Different people have different, thoughts on that, but really I mean, I really do try to look out for my customers' interest, and I will point out if there's a real question about how financially wise it is for you. So I have no problems with that.
Well, that's great. And I mean, that is also fundamentally what we at Sun do. We are here to be your consumer advocacy organization. So everybody just wants you to be as confident as possible with whatever choice you make. If solar is not the right option for you right now, then that is fine. We hope to
Right.
see you again in the future when it is a better time for you. But hopefully at least, tonight and throughout the process, you get more education, have a better understanding of just what to expect, both financially and from, a physical installation point of view. So I'm not seeing any other questions, but I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. I am going to put our email in the chat. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. And if you're interested, I hope you will join the co-op. I'm going to put that in again. And yeah, let us know how we can help through the process. If you do join, you will be hearing from Richard. Again, listen to your voicemails, respond to them. I am also guilty of not doing that. So I just, again, want to thank everybody for joining, and hope you all have a great night. Thank you all. Thanks, Richard.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.